Hi, this is Father Louis Scurti. Welcome to Friends of the Word. With my guest today, who's been here before, Michael DeBenedetto. I'm going to give it to you the way it is. Michael DeBenedetto III, Michael C. DeBenedetto III, Esquire.
Yes.
Welcome again, Michael. Michael and I have been chatting about his background, his involvement with the church, faith, and legal issues. And he is an attorney in New York.
Yes.
And you passed the bar when?
I passed the bar. Well, I took the bar exam in July, and I got notification that I passed in late October, and I officially got sworn in on January 10th.
January 10th.
Yeah.
Great. Wonderful.
Yeah.
So this is wild.
Yeah.
Now, okay, January 8th and January 11th. What's the difference between those 2 days as an attorney?
January 8th, like I was still considered a JD. Like I couldn't go to court or any things like that. I worked in a firm, but I had law clerk status. But then after I sworn in, now everything has changed over to attorney at law. So now I can go to court. Now I could have the full privileges of being an attorney.
That's amazing. How old are you?
I'm about to be 25 right now. I'm 24 years old.
I mean, it would give me palpitations to be 25 years old and go to a court and represent whatever case it was.
Yeah.
But you have it though.
Yeah.
You have the great presence, and where have you presented not legal issues, but non-court
In terms of speaking,
venues? Speaking, young adults, anything like that.
In law school, I gave a talk on Justice Clarence Thomas with a club I was part of. I was part of the Federalist Society, and so I gave a talk on his memory based on his book, My Grandfather's Son. And that book is very important because he not only talks about the law, he talks about growing up and his journey and his faith journey as well. So that also, and that's a very easy read. It's a very good book, but he was a man that started off, thinking about going to the seminary, then he found his way to eventually the law and stuff like that. But I gave a talk on that because he just celebrated his anniversary on the Supreme Court last year. So that was probably my most recent talk before the young adult retreat. And last week, I did the young adult retreat, and I spoke there on the 7 deadly sins and the virtues.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Wow, beautiful. That's great because you have a great presence. Okay, at the end of the last episode, we were talking about your dear friend, Thomas More.
Yeah.
So tell us about Thomas More.
So I mean Thomas More, like he's such an inspiring figure. Like he had a great position in England, and one of Henry VIII's best friends. Everything was going well for him, but then Henry VIII, he was like, I need that divorce, and
just give the audience a little snippet background about his divorce and his desire for the ritual, and the response to the Pope.
Oh, okay. So pretty much, Thomas More had the position of chancellor in England, which was a very big legal position. One of the top people in the King's Court, and then Henry VIII, he had many wives, and he wanted to have a divorce done, and the Catholic Church does not permit divorces, and so he wanted Thomas More to change the rules and such so that grant the divorce, and the Pope said no, and then Thomas More said I'm not going to go along and support this divorce action. And so then Henry VIII made the decision to execute him for the disloyalty. But the thing is, Thomas More, he took a stand. Like his job was important to him. He had a lot of responsibility, but in the end, he did what was right. He stood up for his faith, and he wasn't afraid to face the consequences of that. Like that to me is inner strength. That to me is an inspiring story of somebody that really wants to take his faith into action. So very inspiring figure to me. And in the Catholic Church, one of the most revered figures.
And patron of attorneys.
Patron of attorneys. System. And so that's a little bit of background on him. And it's very interesting. I mentioned before, growing up and having devotion to him. But in college, actually, it's interesting. The name of the church that we have on campus at St. John's is called St. Thomas More. And we have a wonderful statue of St. Thomas More in the church. And, I'm not going to lie, this summer was probably one of my most challenging with getting ready for the bar exam.
Yeah.
But, I found solace in, going to our little chapel in St. Thomas More, and then going to, saying my prayers for St. Thomas More to intercede for me for the exam. And, it seemed to have worked. But, it's something that was like a constant reminder. It just seemed right that
your faith and your personality and your intelligence all came together.
Yeah, it all came together.
That's great.
And God was with me, when I needed him, the most. And I know Thomas More interceded for me. So that really was a beautiful thing.
Wow.
Yeah.
it may be too young in your career, but do you have a focus or a direction that you want to take your legal future into? It may be too young. I don't know.
Yes, I do
Okay,
actually.
of
I
course,
actually
of course
do
leave
have,
it to you to say yes. I mean, that's great.
I actually do have interest in different things. Like I practice law. I practice, different types of insurance, defense matters, and tort matters, and different things like that. But eventually, in terms of if ever a pro bono opportunity arose to help with a Supreme Court case, I would love to be one of the attorneys to help overturn Roe v. Wade. That would be a dream of mine. Just that one Supreme Court case that I know that I could contribute in some way, whether it's writing, whether it's doing something, helping with the case, taking the case, helping the attorneys who are taking the case as a pro bono activity to be able to get involved, so I could, use the skills that I've learned and I've developed over my years to really help with something like that. But yeah, that'd definitely be a dream of mine to be able to help with cases, cases like that, Supreme Court cases, because honestly, the Supreme Court is very, very important, because I could point towards, many different points in time when, when sometimes they failed our country, and as a result, the society reacts in the same way. I mean, we could talk about prayer in schools, we could talk about the separation of church and state, and all of these things have contributed to like I would say, the millennial and the general societal lethargic towards me.
Yes,
so
distance,
I think it's a very, very important part of our government system, and it would be great to help with the case to try to, show the constitutional roots to support good.
What do you think is the biggest, you might stay with pro-life, I don't know, but what do you think is the biggest negative legal influence in our society today?
The most negative legal influence?
Yeah.
I think this occurs when judges, when they try to put their own perspective into the law instead of following the Constitution. Like when we don't follow the Constitution, that was established by the founding fathers that did have a sense of faith. I mean, this country was started on religious freedom as a basis. When we veer off the Constitution, how it's structured, that's when I think we have a problem, because then there's their own influences, their own biases that go into the law.
But okay, even as we're speaking, couldn't the opposition say that about you, because you're bringing your own religious bias?
Well, the thing is, though, I want to be careful with it, with a distinction. I have my theological perspectives on religion and the pro-life movement and the marriage movement, but I also have legal arguments too that are distinguishable from religious arguments in regards to these issues.
In the line of Neil Gorsuch.
Yeah,
right?
the line of Neil Gorsuch, Antonin Scalia.
Constitutional.
Yeah, because a judge shouldn't approach the bench and be like, okay, I'm Catholic and I'm pro-life, so that means I'm going to issue a decision to say, no more to the abortion law. No, it's a different argument. But my point is that there's the outcome of the legal process, coincidentally, reaches the same outcome as the theological process. The outcome is the same, abortion is not acceptable theologically, and abortion is not acceptable constitutionally either. So I mean so that's how I look at different things. I think we have to be very cognizant of the law and making sure we're not bringing necessary biases to interpreting the laws, but going by the Constitution. I think if you follow the Constitution, as Justice Scalia, Clarence Thomas, Neil Gorsuch, Justice Alito, who I've also met, have explained, you follow the Constitution, you'll reach the right outcomes. Like it's going to happen. So you don't need to actually start putting other things into it.
So faith and reason would be the Constitution.
Yeah, the reason would be the Constitution. Because
Right.
because you wouldn't want to be an activist and be like, I'm going to do this and do that just because I think this type of faith-based part of the church or something would say this. That's how I'm going to write my decision. No, I'm going to do it based on what the Constitution says, and then I'll go to church and I'll believe what I believe in theology. But there's a distinction there, but they reach the same outcomes ultimately.
Beautiful. Is there anything you would tell the church, okay, if you could speak to
Yes.
the church, about the church's role vis-a-vis or relationship to the law?
Yes, I think the church should continuously to promote the pro-life movement. I think the church should get back to showing the importance of marriage to children in their CCD programs. In the Catholic schools, there needs to be a re-emphasis on those different types of Catholic teachings, because I think we're in a good place for the pro-life movement, but I think the marriage movement, I think we could still do a bit more work to try to enlighten the young, and you have an opportunity to enlighten people in their faith through the CCD programs, through the different things like that. I think we need to have another re-emphasis on those main issues. So I would call on probably the bishops to try to work some of that not in a overbearing way or anything like that, but just wow, isn't this a beautiful thing? This marriage or that, and the importance of the sacraments of matrimony and why it's important, to have a healthy families and stuff like that. So that's how I think the bishops should really focus. I think the Pope, will focus on doing that too. I think he's done a good job.
He's going in that direction.
He's going in that direction. So I think, but it starts with, I think it really starts, the crux of it starts with the CCD programs and
the religious ed
Catholic
programs,
school,
whatever they call them.
And the colleges too, because honestly, St. John's was a great school. I don't have any theological concerns, but I was lucky. But I do know there are Catholic colleges out there that are Catholic in name only, that are simply, that are not necessarily promoting the many theological principles of the faith. So,
and why are they in existence?
Yeah, because it's just essentially just using the name, because then it's really not practicing their action, and they're developing minds that are having a reaction that's more lethargic to the faith. You have atheist professors, and you have all of these different things, and you have corrupt philosophy departments, different things like that that aren't teaching enough Aquinas, and they're teaching more Karl Marx, different things like that. So I think some Catholic schools need, colleges especially, have to realize their place in forming minds and remembering the mission where they were founded upon, and they need to get back to these principles. That's just my opinion, and I think it starts from CCD to college.
Pretty good opinion.
Yeah.
Pretty good opinion. We're going to stop
Okay.
there. We're going to pick up again. This is good. I mean, you're really getting into it.
Yeah.
This has been Father Louis Scurti, and I'm sure you're enjoying Michael DeBenedetto. Michael C. DeBenedetto III, Esquire.
Yes.
Yes. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
God bless you. And tune in next episode, and let me hear from you. FrLouScurti at hotmail.com. And if you want to contact Mike, his email is
mdben3@gmail.com.
And I'll put that under our bio. God bless you.